Ladies and gentlemen.
This all leads into the finale, which I gotta say, I like the finale. I was in the moment of the finale. I mean, I was completely shocked at this finale, but it does raise a ton of questions that we're going to get into right now. So the finale is entitled The Rescue, which kind of has a double meaning if you really think about it, if you've seen the episode. So Mando and Boba and Finnick and Cara, they all meet up with Bo-Katan. She is back, as well as Sasha Banks' character. I forgot her name, but it was nice to see her return in the finale. There's a little bit of a beef, a standoff between Bo-Katan and Boba Fett because they don't view Boba as a Mandalorian, and there's a lot of beef and headbutting, and it's a little bit of a scuffle, but Mando kind of shuts that down, and Bo agrees. They need their help because he knows where Moff Gideon is, and he needs the help rescuing the child. Now, Bo-Katan is only going because she wants the Darksaber that is still in the possession of Moff Gideon, and could probably use his light cruiser in her quest to reclaim Mandalore. The only caveat that Bo-Katan says is that Moff Gideon is hers, and she has to be the one to defeat it. And there's a specific reason that we'll get into in just a minute. They end up storming the Imperial light cruiser with Moff Gideon and get on the ship fairly quickly, but I was expecting it a little bit more like a super sneaky stealthy mission, but no, it was like guns a-blazing. Everybody knew what was going on, and this was after, sorry, I completely missed this part at the beginning. They did capture Dr. Pershing, who was the cloning doctor who originally was starting to experiment on Grogu in season 1, episode 2. They kind of capture him to get some more information about the light cruiser and to use a stolen shuttle Tidarium to infiltrate the light cruiser. So once they get on the light cruiser, they do split off into two groups. Mando goes off to try to find Grogu, and Bo-Katan, they are more so the distraction. They just try to get there to get to the bridge and take over the ship as quickly as possible. All while the countdown for the Dark Troopers is being initiated for their power-up sequence. So by the time they get to the bridge, Moff Gideon isn't there, and Mando actually encounters the Dark Troopers and is able to combat one of them while ejecting the others into the cold reaches of space. He does have to use the Beskar Spear, which is really, really cool, and that Beskar armor can take a lot of hits. Mando was able to get to Grogu's cell where Moff Gideon is waiting for him, holding the Darksaber over Grogu's head, threatening to kill him. This does lead into a very brief showdown between Moff Gideon and Mando, where honestly, it was very quick for what I was expecting, but I guess it makes sense with what's to come. So Mando is able to subdue Moff Gideon. After a little bit back and forth, he uses the Beskar Spear in order to fend off the Darksaber, disarming him and basically claiming victory. Now, Moff Gideon says something very interesting before the fight. He's like, assume that I know everything. Which, at first, when I was thinking about that line, I was like, okay, so you do know that Beskar is resistant to lightsaber technology. So when he tells Mando he can take Grogu, just leave my ship immediately, Mando's like, cool. I just want the kid. I don't give a shit about anything else. And then he tries to attack him with the Darksaber, and Mando's able to fend him off not only with his armor, but with the Beskar Spear. So at first I'm thinking about that. I'm like, are you sure you know everything? But then once Mando takes Moff Gideon to the bridge to Bo-Katan, he is in possession of the Darksaber now because he was able to disarm Moff Gideon with it, and he tried to hand it to Bo-Katan. I forgot this at that point, but according to Clone Wars and Rebels, that if the Darksaber can't just be handed off to somebody, it is very similar to the Elder Wand from Harry Potter, where you have to defeat the person who wielded it before to claim ownership of the item. So due to the fact that Mando defeated Moff Gideon in combat, he is now the rightful owner of the Darksaber, which is very cool, but this also very visually causes tension between Bo-Katan and Mando at this point. Mando doesn't care. He rescued the child. He's good to go. He just wants to get the out of there. But with what Bo-Katan needs it for, she would have to defeat him in combat. So that's kind of left up in the air because unfortunately the Dark Troopers that were ejected into space make their way back to the ship. And this is where things just go completely off the rails at this point. So before I say this, if you're still watching this, I'm about to spoil the shit out of the last 3-4 minutes of the episode. As the Dark Troopers are making their way to the bridge, everything looks very hopeless. Moff Gideon begins to gloat knowing that, everyone in this room is going to be dead except for myself and the child. So this little last stand is kind of pointless until we see an X-Wing flying towards the ship. I was visibly shocked. And I was like, they are not doing this. Are they doing this? And they took a long time to really get to it, but this X-Wing lands on the ship and a cloaked figure begins to make their way through the ship. As they get closer, you start seeing security footage of this figure wielding a lightsaber, cutting down the Dark Troopers with little to no effort. And it's a black and white, so you don't officially know what the color of the saber is. I'm dragging this on longer than it needs to. It's a green lightsaber and a black hooded figure. It's Luke Skywalker. Like they fucking did Luke Skywalker in this episode. And what was really cool is that the hood was down the entire time. And there's a sequence leading towards the bridge where it's just a line of Dark Troopers, and Luke comes off the elevator and just starts cutting them down. It's very reminiscent of the end of Rogue One when Darth Vader shows up and just completely noob kills all of the Resistance people at the end of that movie. It's like shot for shot, almost very similar styles, and it's incredibly cool. It's an incredibly cool moment. Especially with Grogu, he can feel Luke's presence. Like he feels it, like he puts his hand on the screen of the camera watching everything go down, and Mando's like looking at that and looking at Grogu and stuff like that, and then Grogu points to the door to open the door while everyone else is guns ready. We're like, are you serious? And Mando's like, open the door. And he opens the door and he walks in, green lightsaber, this lightsaber in hand. He is this one. It's a dope moment. It really is a dope moment. It's a really dope moment. And here's where I'm going to say I have mixed feelings about this. In the moment, and I was very much in the moment, I was shocked. I was super shocked. And I was slightly emotional too. Because this is Return of the Jedi era Luke. I was someone who was really into the version of Luke that we got in The Last Jedi. I understood where he was coming from, and I was okay with it. A lot of people weren't. But this was really cool because we got to see him kind of in action that we never got to see before on screen. Now, here's the part where I have mixed feelings about. Oh God. He takes the hood off, and I was like, seriously, I was like, here's the thing. If you're gonna do this whole de-aging facial stuff, there's a certain uncanny valley that I don't think anyone has truly gotten right yet. Marvel's gotten pretty good at it. And they've done so much with The Mandalorian up to this point where in terms of visual effects and stuff like that, I was like, this didn't look, it took me out of it for a second. My emotions turned to like, is that, it was Luke, but it didn't look like him. It looked like, it was a little rough, but I snapped right back into it the second R2 came around the corner. R2's my ride or die. Okay, let's just put that out there right now. R2-D2 is my ride or die when it comes to droids in the Star Wars universe. So to see him I was like, oh my god. But that whole facial thing with Luke really took me out of it for a second, so I didn't want to put that out as kind of a negative on the episode. I also have concerns now about the fate of Grogu. So you see, once Luke comes in, he basically says, like, he doesn't even really address anybody else, he just says, come little one. And Grogu kind of looks at Mando, and then Mando looks back at Luke, and Luke says, he's asking for your permission. He'll always be in danger until he learns how to master his abilities. We get this really touching moment between Mando and Grogu, where I was already getting a little emotional, and Grogu's like looking, like kind of face up to the helmet, and Mando takes the helmet off in front of everybody, allowing Grogu to see his face, like, for the first time. And it's this really, they were father and son. It was a really touching moment. I really liked that moment. And then we go back to weird Luke face, and then, you know, Grogu goes with Luke and R2. That's pretty much how they end the episode. With, you know, kind of a shot of Mando just looking very sad with a tear in his eye because, you know, he basically sent his baby away. So, I mean, it's a really emotional episode if you're a fan of these two characters throughout the entire 2 seasons. As cool as it was that they used Luke Skywalker, there's so many questions I have. One being, in about 15 years, your nephew's going to go ape shit and kill all your students. So, is Grogu dead? That's kind of one of the negative things that comes from this. If we didn't learn of Luke's fate or Luke's backstory for the time between Return of the Jedi and Last Jedi, if we didn't know that going into this, I would be like, oh, okay, that makes total sense that Luke was the one to show up. It still makes total sense that Luke was the one that shows up from a story perspective. I understand that The Mandalorian has really focused on keeping itself separate from everything, but in this timeline, in this time, especially in the galaxy, Luke would be in his prime. He would be searching for artifacts or other Force users to potentially start a school. So it makes sense that if Grogu reached out through the Force, that he would be the most likely person to show up. It would be weird if, like, Ahsoka showed back up, like, hey, I'm here to pick up Grogu. Wait, I thought you didn't want her. I'm like, I changed my mind. I want to take Grogu. Like, no, I get that it's Luke. It makes sense for what they're doing, for what's happening at this point in time. So I get it. I hope, because we're still about 15 years out before, you know, Ben Solo goes kind of crazy, hopefully Grogu's not there. Then I guess that leaves it kind of ambiguous, because we are to assume that most of his students died, if not all of them, and the others went with Kylo as the, you know, Knights of Ren. Was he one of the Knights of Ren? There wasn't anybody really short there, so I'm assuming no. So maybe he was like, hey, I'm going to go find my dad. So I'll catch you a little later. Cool. And then maybe a year later, oh shit, oh my god, everybody's dead. What happened? Oh my god. You know, so there's that uncertainty. There's also the uncertainty of season 3. Are we just going to focus on Mando at this point? Is there going to be a conflict now between him and Bo-Katan, because he is technically in possession of the Darksaber, and Bo can't just take it from him? She would have to fight him in combat. So it's just felt like a series finale for what the show has been up to this point. With season 3, which, based off of the post-credit scene, might be another year or so before we actually see season 3. It just leaves everything kind of up in the air. I don't think they'll keep Mando and Grogu apart for too terribly long. I think maybe the first half of season 3, he won't be on the show. And they'll be like, you know, he'll be like, I want my kid. Or maybe Grogu wants to reunite with them, and it's just easier. I hope we, okay, here, let me explain why I'm saying I hope we don't see this. I hope we don't see a lot of Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian. Hear me out. As much as I'm a huge Luke stan, I am, and I take any version of him. I don't feel like the facial thing is going to sit well with me in the long run. The moment of him just showing up and being badass crazy with the lightsaber is one of the dopest scenes I've seen in a long time. Once that hood came off, it was like, ooh, are you somebody else? Even if you just got Sebastian Stan to play him for like 3 minutes, it probably would have looked a little better. It was actually Mark Hamill. They did credit Mark Hamill in the credits. So he did the voice, but it just felt awkward when the hood came off. And that's my only issue with it, was from a graphical standpoint. I mean, having the characters show up to save them and to take Grogu under his wing makes total sense from a storyline perspective. But if your goal is to kind of have these characters reunite or be together for the majority of the run, it would make sense that maybe Grogu changes his mind, or maybe he decides to shut himself off to the Force and just wants to stay with Mando. Who knows? It kind of changes a lot of the dynamic of the show. We know Moff Gideon is still alive. He's just in custody now. I feel like he will be a threat because you don't hire someone like Giancarlo Esposito to just sit on the sidelines. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. There's so many questions going into season 3, which I guess is a sign of a decent finale. It was kind of a not super hardcore. It was kind of uneventful to a degree, but the biggest event being that Luke Skywalker showed the fuck up, and I think that's what most people are like on about this episode. Whereas a lot of the episodes earlier in the season are, I think, stronger episodes as a whole, whereas this has an amazingly shocking moment with a beloved character returning, which I'm kind of hoping is a cameo, because I do like that when this series kind of stands on their own. But I do love the fact that he was the one that showed up. I'm just not in love with the with the face. It's something about it was off. It didn't even feel like it was like, oh, he's a couple years older, so maybe he looks a little different. It felt like someone totally different from the facial perspective, but it was Luke Skywalker, and I get that. So the post-credits scene, because I don't want this to run super terribly long, the post-credits scene shows us back on Tatooine, because we got the double sun, and shows Jabba's palace. But it's not Jabba on the throne. It's actually Baba Freak. I think that's his name. He's a little bit bigger, and he's on Jabba's seat. And you see a couple blaster fires, and then Fennec Shand shows up and starts taking out fools. And Boba Fett comes strolling in and ices Baba Freak and throws him off the throne, and just decides to sit down with Fennec grabbing a drink and sitting on his right hand side. And they hit us with the Book of Boba Fett coming December 2021. So of all the information that they gave us for the Investors Day with the Lucasfilm stuff, they managed to keep this completely hidden that we were getting a standalone Boba Fett series. But that's coming December 2021, and I'm unsure if that's going to also run in conjunction with Mandalorian Season 3, or if this is going to come out first, and then a year later we'll get Mandalorian Season 3. Overall, these last 2 episodes were very entertaining, very enjoyable, a lot of jaw drops, a lot of shocks. With Season 2, that's been kind of the theme. Season 1 was very much standalone. There were very loose ties to elements of the original trilogy, or the new trilogy, or the prequel trilogy. They really wanted to establish the world on their own. And Season 2 continued that by going to familiar places and going to new places, while introducing some legend characters and bringing back fan favorites and having fucking Luke Skywalker show up at the end. I mean, don't know where they're going to go with this. I would prefer, personally, as much as I love Luke, I think if it's only a cameo, cool. If he shows up one more episode just so Grogu can leave and go back with Mando, cool. If this was it for Grogu, I don't think it is, because let's be real, that little baby's a moneymaker for Lucasfilm. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't show back up, or he doesn't reunite with Mando, or maybe they'll do like a weird time jump, like a couple years, and maybe after getting a few years of training, he's like, I'm good, I'm going back with my dad. I don't, maybe I'll pop in from time to time. You got a new batch. You got your nephew showing up. He's a little rambunctious scamp. You might want to watch out for him. Just saying. That, who knows? That might be what they end up doing. I don't think they're going to kill him. I don't. But it doesn't put him in a good position if he doesn't leave Luke's protection. That's my thoughts on the last 2 episodes of Mandalorian season 2. I like the episode. I know some people probably did or didn't like elements of having Luke in it. I'm on the fence about it, personally. I was caught in the moment. Still am, but that face. Ooh. I think season 2 of The Mandalorian was really good. The finale is good, but I think it's not as strong as other episodes. The biggest thing from the finale was that reveal of Luke Skywalker. And I think for better or for worse, I mean, wherever your opinions lie on it, I think it's definitely worth a conversation. And yeah, I think it's cool. Thank you so much for watching this video. Sorry it ran kind of long, if it did run kind of long. Comment down below, let me know your thoughts on it. You can follow me on all the social media listed at the end of the video. What are your thoughts on season 3? Because we are definitely getting a season 3. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until next time, may the force be with you, and I'll catch you later. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you did like this video, why not give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends? You can subscribe to the channel by clicking on my gorgeous little face right over there. You can follow me on all the various social media platforms right below. And last but certainly not least, if you've got a few extra minutes, why not check out one of the lovely videos floating right over here. Later.